Good afternoon. I'm Jim Lowenstern. I'm the host of this podcast, the Exponential Files, and we're all about EXP. We do this every week. We have the movers and the shakers. Today we have Knolly Williams on the show, and very happy to have you on the show, Knolly. What do you have to say?
Well, I'm happy to be here, man. This is exciting. I love EXP and I'm happy to be on the podcast. We're going to have fun.
Okay, cool. So let's go back in time. I grew up in New York. I believe you're from Brooklyn.
I was born in Brooklyn. Yeah, I didn't live there long.
No,
so I can't claim it.
No,
because we lived in Bedford-Stuyvesant. This was 1970. And my mom says, we're out of here. This is, it was not nice back then. It's nice now though.
Yeah. So where'd you move to? Was it Texas?
We ended up moving to Ohio. And then from Ohio, we moved, when I was 10, we moved to South Central LA. And it was bad. I mean, it was really bad. And then by the time I was 18, I ended up in Austin, Texas, and lived there for more than 30 years. Loved Austin until I decided I wanted to move tropical. And that's where I'm at now, man. I'm in Puerto Rico. I love it. The weather, people say, why'd you move to Puerto Rico? I'm like, well, have you heard about our weather here? It never gets below 72 and it never gets above 88. All right, let me say it again, 72 to 88. That's our weather, okay? 365 days a year. And I like it. Now we do have hurricanes.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah, so when the hurricane season hits this year, we're out of here. We're out of here for like 6 weeks.
Just going to put the storm shutters up and
you got it.
Bail.
You know how it goes. You know how it goes.
I lived in Florida for a few years. Okay. Yeah, I do know. Not to the extent that you're getting it these days.
Right.
But
right.
So let's talk about real estate. You are not in production now. You're more of a coach and I guess a writer. You seem to be quite the influencer. So you've worked for Remax, Keller Williams. It was sort of a progression, and now you're with EXP. So why don't you take us through your history as a producing agent, what set you apart from your competition, what got you to writing books? Let's talk about everything.
Yeah, so I got into real estate when I was 33 years old. Now, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 12. And my dad was an entrepreneur, so I would watch him. He sold at flea markets. He made custom jewelry, handcrafted jewelry. And I would just watch how he made money. I mean, he was a masterful entrepreneur. And so I knew at a very young age that I wanted to be an entrepreneur as well. So I started on that path at 12. By the time I was 23, I started my first company. I had many companies.
What were you doing at 12? Let's talk about that.
So at 12 years old, I started selling. I mean, I would do anything. I sold Grit magazine door to door. I would order so many copies for a price, and then I think we triple or quadruple. The retail price was quadruple, and I just go door to door, knocking doors, selling Grit magazine.
And what was Grit magazine? What kind of magazine was that?
It was like a variety magazine, and it was you would buy like 10, 15, 20, however many copies you wanted at wholesale, and you'd sell them retail, door to door.
Okay.
And nobody cared about the magazine. They saw this kid at their door and they just bought what I had. Later on, I started selling candy. So I would sell candy in school. I was about 13. My mom gave us $5 every day for school, my sister and I. And she was a single mom. So I didn't grow up with my father. My mom and dad separated when I was 6, 7, somewhere in there. And but my mom would give us $5 every day to go to school. And this was when I was about 7th grade. And I would buy the big packs of Now and Later. I'd get Starburst, you name it. And I'd be sold out by lunchtime, and I'd make about $15 from my 5.
Wow, nice.
So I knew I just entrepreneurship in general. I started doing yards like mowing, service. I learned quickly, Jim, that's not for me. I don't like manual labor, you know, I like that easier money. So I did a variety of things. And I always had a side hustle. By the time I turned 13, 14, I got into rapping. I became a rapper. Okay. So I would do DJing, I made mixtapes. Okay. So you bring me a tape. I didn't have to pay for the cassette tape. You bring it to me. I lay down a nice mix. I charge you $10. Okay. $10. And that was pure profit. So anything I could do to make a buck, I did it.
Did you invest in real estate at an early age?
No, I didn't really get into the real estate investing early on. But I was 26 when I bought my first house and, bought a few properties in, but I was more into just starting companies, businesses. I started a record label when I was 23. By the time I was 29, actually by the time I was 26 is when I bought my first house. It was a 6,000 square foot home, very nice home on 10 acres. By the time I was 29, I made my first $1 million, actually made $2 million that year. I was making $150,000 a month in my 20s. And the music industry tanked at some point. I had a thriving record label. We're making 150 grand a month, 6 figures a month. And when the music industry tanked, it was like, okay, what am I going to do next? Because I was bankrupt. My house was in foreclosure. And I was like, what am I going to do? And that's when real estate came up. It's like, I paid my real estate agent over $29,000 to sell my house. So I said, this could be something I could do. That's good money. And he didn't do much. I said, he didn't do a whole lot. So I got in the game.
Well, wait a minute. Let's go on that thought.
Sure.
He didn't do much. Now that was you not being in the industry.
That's
now
right.
that you are in the industry, do you have a different opinion on the work that we do?
So my opinion is that he got the job done. Okay. And there are so many things that happen. There's 46 different steps that happen behind the scenes on a listing. But in reality, he ran his business correctly. And that's how I ran my company, through leverage. And the reality is, when I took over 1,000 listings my first 10 years in real estate. In fact, I took 21 listings my first 74 days in the business. And, but I worked through leverage. I worked smart. When I was in the music industry, I was working 12, 14, 16 hours a day. But what I learned is that in the real estate game, if you are highly leveraged, which is what I did my whole career, on any listing, there's only 2, 3, or 4 things that you should personally do. And everything else should be leveraged to others. And so I learned that early on. And so,
okay, what are those 3 things?
So on a listing, there's 46 activities. The first step is to generate the lead. Step number 40 is to close the transaction. And then there's 6 steps that happen after closing. In fact, I write about it. This is the book I write about that in, Success with Listings. And it's over 400 pages. Okay. Now, the only steps that you have to do as a listing specialist is step number 1, you need to generate the lead. Okay. And really the only other, to me, there's 2 things that you have to do: generate the lead, go on the appointment. Generate the lead, go on the appointment. Everything else can be leveraged to others. If there was a 3rd thing that I would throw in there and say, okay, you probably could do this, then it would be negotiating offers. Okay. But I even leverage that part out. So it doesn't necessarily have to be done by you. If you run a highly leveraged real estate business, you could work very little. But the whole point is not how many hours you work. The point is how well your operation runs. Okay. That's the whole key. And my last year in production, I did 153 transactions. In fact, when I was 38 years old, just 4 years after I got in the business, I was the #1 solo producing agent in Austin, Texas, out of 9,800 agents, ranked by the Austin Business Journal. They do a annual report, and I sold 96 transactions through MLS that year. Actually did more than 96, but through MLS, I did 96 deals, and as a solo agent with no other agents on my team. So, but I was highly leveraged. It's what a lot of people don't understand. With leverage, you can do a whole lot. So what I saw Jack McDonald do, my Remax agent, I was like, man, this guy didn't do much at all. Okay. But at the end of the day, he was a very smart agent. He was highly leveraged and he got the job done. The job that I hired him for, which was to sell my house, which previously my previous agent couldn't do it. I tried for sale by owner. I couldn't do it. He got it done. That's the bottom line. And he got the result. But he probably spent 3 or 4 hours of his time on my listing, okay, of his personal time.
So you tried to sell it yourself. What did he do in your estimation that you didn't do?
Well, I mean, there's so much that goes into successfully selling a property. And I think the biggest piece of what he did was a negotiation piece, because there, you know, obviously when you're trying to sell yourself, there's a lot of emotion involved in the transaction. And so when you're negotiating with people, it just, you know, sales are pretty much emotional. Okay. All sales is emotional. It starts with emotion. They're emotional decisions, and then they're justified by logic. That's how sales work. That's the psychology of selling. And so when you're emotionally involved, your energy is off. So he was able to bring a fresh perspective. He was a damn good marketer. You know, he got the word out on the street, and he positioned the property the way it needed to be positioned to get top dollar. So there's a lot of things that we do as agents that are, you know, so I mean, it's obviously it's the reason why.
Was it the same price, the first agent, you selling it as a for sale by owner, and this agent that eventually sold it, same price the whole time?
It was the same price the whole time.
Really?
Yeah, it was the same
Okay.
price. So we didn't even price adjust. In fact, he raised the price when he took the listing. We had it on for we listed it for 525, but when I had it listed, I had it like for 500. And eventually we did adjust the price down to 499. But I mean, it was what it probably should have been initially. And we got it done. And the only reason he raised the price was probably because you know, in retrospect, I was like, okay, let's jack the price up now that I have an agent that's really, I mean, he was one of the top agents in the city, which interestingly, in 4 years, I was selling more than him. And I think he was ranked, when I hired him, he was in the top 10 in the city of Austin back then.
So let's talk about, so you took over 20 listings in the
took
first
21, my first 74 days in the business. Yep.
74 days. Okay.
Yeah.
So day one, day two, I don't need every day, but how did that happen so quickly? What were you doing?
What happened with me is I got my real estate license in June of 03, and I did not place it with a brokerage until December. Okay. Now, why didn't I place it right away? Well, I was scared. I was fear. And that fear, because it was something I'd totally never done before, led me to do lots and lots of research. So what I did first, the groundwork, was I researched the business. I read everything I could. I talked to agents, and I read all the books. Okay. So I boned up on the industry so that when I jumped in the game, I knew that I was going to be a listing specialist from day one. Okay. A lot of people were like, man, you should do buyers first. You should join a team. I was like, all the books that I read point to listings that's the game. So why am I going to wait and do buyers for 4 years and then go to listings? I'm just going to do that from day one. So when I got my business card, my title from day one was listing specialist. That's what all my marketing was for listings. And I started with Prudential. I was there for 74 days. And when I left, I still have the inventory sheet from the day I left, which was between pending, sold, closed, and actives, 21 transactions. And the interesting thing, Jim, was I didn't realize that it was that hard. Like in other words, there was a mentor. First thing I did was I got a mentor. And this guy mentored me from day one. I mean, and he was a top lister in the office. Okay. Arnold Salis. He was a top listing agent in that office. And my job was to beat him. And I was very competitive. I've been in sales and marketing also. That's another thing, sales, marketing, and branding, I've cut my teeth on since my early 20s. So I knew that game. I just didn't understand real estate that much.
Is the cowboy hat part of the brand,
Well, not
your
really.
brand?
I mean, I was wearing this in my 20s. So I had this in the record business. And when I got into real estate, the first thing I was going to do was take off the hat because I was like, this is ridiculous. Nobody's going to want to list with me. They're going to think I do farm and ranch. And I tried to explain that to my wife, and she says, no, you're going to wear the hat. I said, no, I'm not going to wear this hat. She said, you are going to wear it. I said, I'm not going to wear this cowboy hat and trying to go to listing appointments, talking to people and trying to keep a straight face with a cowboy. No, I'm not going to do it. She said, you're going to wear it. And that's how I kept it. My wife demanded that I wear it. And it's not just it's not really part of my brand. It's just me. It's what, you'll go back to the music business days, and I've got many articles. We were featured in over 200 newspapers and on a lot of different Newsweek and everything else. And the cowboy hat was on then. So I just kept it. So I tell people cowboy hat is not required. Probably it's best if you don't go with a hat.
Well, it's your brand. Everyone's
Yeah,
got to
it's
be
just me.
authentic,
It's me. It's just me.
you
Yeah.
know, for themselves.
Yeah. But I focused on the 3 buckets. I learned early on that when you go in for listings, you got to focus on your sphere of influence. You have to have a phenomenal farm, and you have to have a niche. People have to know you for a specialty. And so that's how I started.
So what was the specialty? What was the niche?
My specialty was expireds from day one. Expireds. It was a good market for expireds back then. That's what my mentor did, was expireds and FSBOs, both. In fact, I just did a 2-hour training on expireds and FSBOs. It's on my YouTube channel, where I kind of break down how I did it from day one in the beginning, early days. But that was my niche, man, was expireds. If you've had trouble getting your home sold, let Knolly come in and check it out, look and see. And there was only there was usually a few things that I could see. Oftentimes it's price, we know that. But there was some other things that I would see that agents just didn't do quite right. Like they had bad photographs. The photos were terrible. They didn't do a good property description. Just those little things. What most people don't realize is that buying a house is a process of elimination. That's all it is. And so if you're going to pull up 50 homes that meet your search criteria, you've got to eliminate 49 of them. And so in that process of elimination, I don't want my listings to be eliminated. So I'm going to put really nice photos. I'm going to have a real nice description of the property. And the price is typically the third thing people look at. First, they look at the picture, then they read about it, then they look at the price, because the price is already within the range of what they're looking for. It's got to be within their range of what they're searching, or they wouldn't be seeing the property anyway. So, so there's certain things that I did, little tweaks that I did to the listings, like professional photography and so on, that really got, and this is before a lot of people were doing that, staging my homes and things like that. And it just put them in a different light.
Let's say the house is in, let's say the people that own it, they've been there for a while. They've been not maintaining it. They may be hoarding a bit. You come in and what do you say? What do you do?
It really depends. So the big things that I have on a property are very simple, and they're very cost effective. Okay. So number one, the house has to be thoroughly cleaned. Number two, it has to be decluttered, and then paint. Okay. Clean, declutter, paint. Those are the big 3 on a listing. If you clean a house, declutter it, and paint it, make it look fresh, that's like, in my opinion, 90% of the battle. Now, in some cases I would have, because I worked with a lot of distressed properties eventually, because when I started doing expireds in 2004, what happened was a lot of these people were upside down. Okay. And the reason why the home didn't sell was because of the price. They couldn't go lower because they were upside down. So I got into short sales. Okay. And when I was doing distressed property, you were dealing with emotionally volatile people and situations. And I would just sell them as is, and the price would get it sold. Okay. And because a lot of times you were selling to investors and, opportunists. And so it just depended on the property. If you were selling it, you want top dollar, I'm going to tell you to clean, declutter, and paint. Then let me take another look at it, or let my team take another look at it. One of my people, and then we'll tell you what else we think needs to happen, if it needs to be staged or not. Okay. So those are really the big three. And honestly, they don't cost but a few. Even if you paint it, you know, you're not talking about that much money.
Have you invested? Let's say the people need all these things done, including storage of all their things. They're sort of moving a little faster because you're saying you're not going to be here for a while. Let's get you organized. Where does the stuff go? Maybe they don't have enough money. Do you suggest that the agent invest their money into helping these people get organized so that they can earn a commission?
Yeah, I mean, whatever it takes, bro. I mean, we we used to do, and a lot of times what it is if you want it to be hassle free for them, and you want to relieve some of the emotion, then those are the kind of things you do. That's interesting because we would have companies like Junkaholics was a guy, Junk Busters, different companies. And we would basically say, okay, let me look, I understand your situation. Here's what I'm going to do. Let me get some bids and see what it would take to get this stuff done. And then I'm willing to pay for it, but I need to get reimbursed at closing. And so we would have a signed agreement that they would pay me back at closing. I mean, it's risky because what if they take it off the market? They don't sell, you know, that kind of thing. But we never got left holding the bag. Now, most times, Jim, I would try to get them to figure out how to get the money from a family member, a cousin, uncle, church member, maybe somebody in their bingo club. I don't know. Let's figure out who can help you with this. You need, you know, $1,200 or whatever it is. But if that just didn't work and it went sideways, yes, I would make the initial investment for upgrades or whatever needed to be done. And then I would get that payback at closing. We did that many times. Yeah.
Have you had much experience and success with, let's say, the luxury market as opposed to distressed properties?
Yeah, we did. So we had both divisions. We had luxury division, we had distressed division. So we had both opposite sides of it. And we did a lot of luxury as well. The thing about luxury, in my opinion, this is my opinion about it. I remember one time, the first time when I was first getting into luxury, and it was Bolden Creek out in Austin, very exclusive neighborhood, very nice. And my thought was, because the reason why most agents don't get into luxury is they're just afraid. It's just fear. And that was me. I was like, man, you know, no, I work with the working man's home. You know, I would make excuses why I didn't do luxury. So I show up at this guy's house. Michael is his name, the owner. I knock on the door. Here comes a guy to the door, no shirt on, no shoes. And I'm dressed as best as I can, because I'm like, now this is Austin. Austin's pretty, you know, Austin's like a cool town. So anything can happen in Austin. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe he didn't know I was going to be here at this time. So I tell him, I said, hey, Michael, no problem. If you need to go ahead and put a shirt on or anything like that. He said, no, I'm good. So we sat down, we did the whole listing appointment. This guy doesn't have a shirt on. And here I'm taking the listing, you know, back then it was like 600 grand, which was a nice listing. You know, I think luxury in our market back then was like 400. And it was a very nice property. And I learned early on, Jim, that they're just like, and now that's how I live, is luxury, right? You know, my house is luxury home. And so what I learned is that they're just regular people. They're just regular folks. And those deals are so much easier, in my opinion, to close than the other deals I was doing. I mean, yeah. I had a guy not too long ago, he bought from me 1.7 million. I've never personally seen the house. Okay. We did everything by Zoom. I negotiated everything. There was no problem. He put all his money in escrow. Everything was done like I told him to do. We closed before the closing day. I mean, everything was smooth. And I mean, some of the regular homes that I would sell, I mean, you jump through all kinds of credit problems. Okay, we got to fix this. This didn't happen. The person didn't show up for that or whatever. And the smoothest transactions I've had were my luxury deals, in my opinion.
So you've written how many books at this point?
Uh, I have a new one coming out that I'm most proud of, but I think I've got about 5 or 6 that I've written up to now.
Because I've written a couple of books. I've got a third one that I'm kind of putting aside. I'm editing it. I don't think it's quite finished yet, but it's sort of like baking a cake.
Yes.
Do you have help, or do you just do it totally yourself?
My first book, I completely got help. That was called Success with Short Sales. And that book I came out with in 2009. And at that time, I hired the former president of Keller Williams University to help me write everything. Like, she was basically like a ghostwriter. And what I did, the process was, I just sat down with her and I taught her my whole system over like a week. And she just recorded everything. First you do this, 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 this. And then she basically wrote the whole book in my voice, okay, after I taught it to her. Then by my second, because I'm a writer, I've been a writer since I was 13, 14, when I used to write poetry and songs. And then in English, that was my favorite subject. Forget about the others. English was my thing. So when I was in 5th grade, I was reading on a sophomore college level in 5th grade. So I loved writing in that. But for my first book, I got all the help I could get. By my second book, I could kind of figure out the process of how to write a book. So I wrote it myself. And then my third book, and so on. Every book after that, I've pretty much done myself. Now this new book is coming out on McGraw-Hill. And this is the book where it's called 3 Hours a Day. And I'm breaking down how I'm able to run 3 different 6+ figure businesses working 3 hours a day. And it's a methodical process, and it's super easy to learn, but you have to do everything in step by step in the right order. And McGraw-Hill wanted to have me, they wanted me to get a ghostwriter, because it's like, this is your first published book. We're the #1 publisher. They're the #1 educational publisher in America. And I said, let me just write a chapter. And if you hate it, then I'll go with a ghostwriter. But if you like how I write, then let me write the book. So I submitted them. You have to submit the skeleton of the book first. The outline. The outline and everything. Yeah. But then I wrote the full, and they loved it. So they let me write my book. And I don't recommend it for everybody. If you're not a writer, forget about it. Just get as much help as you can. I just happen to love writing. It's one of my top 3 things that I love doing. I love speaking, I love writing, and I love creating.
So it's been sort of an evolution. So it was Prudential first, then Remax. Yeah.
Prudential was 74 days. Prudential was 74 days because I love Prudential, but they had me on a 60-40 split, and the 60% was not to me. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say about that. So I learned real quick. I was like, wait a minute. And the reason I didn't join Remax right away, because Remax, Jack McDonald sold my house from Remax, but I moved to another city because I wanted to get out of Austin. I had my company was bankrupt. I said, I'm out of here. So I moved to another city, and I was there at that company for 74 days. And then I said, no, I'm going back to Austin, and I'm going to go back with Remax. And it was a very elite Remax office. And I thought it was the brand. I was like, oh, the brand's going to help me succeed. That's what I thought back in the day. So I joined Remax. I was there 5 years. I became one of the top 10 Remax agents in the state of Texas. When I was the #1 solo agent in the city of Austin, that's when Gary Keller's office called me, said, hey, Gary wants to meet with you. So I met with Gary. We met for it was a 30-minute meeting that ended up being 2.5 hours. We hit it off, and I joined Keller Williams. I was recruited to Keller Williams by Gary Keller. I was there for 10 years. I loved every single minute of it. And I thought that's where I would be for life until I saw EXP.
So let's talk about Keller Williams for a moment.
Yeah.
I mean, that was back probably before they had really franchised, or were they already?
Yeah, they were franchised already. Okay. It was 09. Remember, Keller Williams started in 83. It's 40 years ago they started. Yeah. Okay. And I originally went to the office in 03. But I didn't join Keller Williams in 03, Keller Williams had 14,000 agents. Okay. So it took them 20 years to get to 14,000, 20 years. Okay. You know, anyway, that's a whole nother story. But when I joined in 09, it was already franchised out. And I started with training, coaching, and really teaching. Because the reason I joined Keller Williams is Gary asked me, he said, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? I said, I see myself teaching, training, and giving back. So he wrote it down: teaching, training, giving back. He wrote it on a big piece of paper, which I still have. And he says, well, why wouldn't you do that today? I said, well, how could I do it today? I'm not even set up. I don't have this and that. He said, I guarantee you, if you join Keller Williams, we would have you teaching and training tomorrow if you join today. And I said, really? I said, how's that work? He says, well, Diana Kokoska runs MAPS coaching. I'm going to call her right now and you're going to meet with her. And I guarantee you, she'll hire you on the spot. I said, really? Okay. So he picked up the phone. He called Diana. She picked up. Gary, hey, Gary, what's good? Hey, I got this young man in my office. Da, 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 da. I met with her the next day. She said, if you come to Keller Williams, you got a position with MAPS coaching. And that's all I wanted to do was teach and train. I love teaching. That's what I love doing. And they brought me in from day one to do that. Even though I had an independent company, you know, I didn't sign on as a Keller Williams trainer. I had my own company, and I would go out and teach in market centers and stuff like that. And I loved it. I loved every minute of it, you know.
So then from Keller Williams, 10 years,
10
and
years.
then EXP. So
EXP. Yeah.
why come to EXP, and what do you think the difference is between EXP and maybe Keller Williams or other companies? And are you happy being at EXP? And you're not in production, so you're doing something else at EXP, right?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because the first this is my 4th year. I've just finished 4 years here, and my first 3 years I capped. But that's just like, I mean, to me, if I do, like I told my sponsor that I wasn't in production, and I would do like 15 or 20 deals. But to me, that's not being in production. I mean, in production for me is doing 100, 120, 150 deals. If I do 20 deals, I'm just doing that. I'm working like 4 hours a week if I do 20 deals. So I'll still do deals. Like I'll still do like maybe 10 or 15 deals a year. To me, that's not being in production. That's my definition of not being in production. Just my personal definition. But that's just like friends and family. They call me up, hey, but I'm not slanging real estate like I used to. You know, I was doing 10, 15 deals a month. So from that perspective, that's kind of where I'm at. As far as EXP and any other company that I've been with, it's not even in the same stratosphere. It's like being in it's a different planet. It's not like you're describing, it's not even describing night and day. It's way different than that. And
so even the difference between Keller Williams and the EXP,
it's not even in the same. It couldn't even be in the same conversation. Like that. That's how different.
Why is that? We both sell real estate.
Well, the reason is because last month EXP paid me $20,000 in revenue share, and Keller Williams paid me $46. So it's the difference between filling up my gas tank or living my lifestyle.
Right, but you don't work for Keller Williams anymore. So in fairness, that $46, they should be paying you anything, right?
Well, in fairness, I'm happy to get the 46, but if you compare $46 to 20,000, or the
that's a big difference.
You know, that's not even a conversation.
So that's the rev share, and that's revenue, the difference between revenue and profit.
That's the difference. I tell you, what I tell people is, and I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years, so I know the difference between revenue and profit. Revenue is a profit is what I turn into the IRS and tell them what I made. But revenue is what that number is before I, you know, whittle it down from my IRS, you know, from my 1040. So the reality is it's not even the same. It's not even in the same conversation, in my opinion. It's all about what you keep, not what you make. And in my entrepreneurial journey, I've always looked for a way to say, how can I provide the services that I provide without you having to pay me? You know, how can I do that? And so I would go through sponsors. Okay, if I get sponsors, then I can make this available for free to agents. So what EXP's done for me is they've allowed me as an influencer, as a coach, a trainer, an entrepreneur, to be able to bring the price of 90% of the things that I did, that I sold down to free. And no other company's been able to do that for me. And so to me, that's like night and day. That's been a game changer for me. The fact that
explain what that means, because you're saying free is better than, I'm not
for me,
following.
it is. For me, it's better. Like this is just a personal opinion. There's a book called Free, and it was written by, forget the gentleman who wrote it, but he was the former editor for Wired magazine. And he explains in this book how companies are taking over the world with a free model. So he talked about Google and a lot of other companies that are free, right? But they're worth billions. And I really, it resonated with me. This was years ago when I read this book. And I said, it would be really nice if I could not have to charge, or I could go do a class, I could do a training, I could do a seminar and not have to charge for it. Like, just do it to help people, like just to help others, just to be a good human being. But I could never figure out how to do it and still live the lifestyle that I like, because I like money. I don't know about you listening, maybe you don't like money. I like it. People that
most people like money.
I like money. And so I tried broke. I didn't like it. And so I like money. And so, but at the same time, the whole thing was, well, how can I do what I do and not have to worry about making a living doing what I do? Okay. So that's the riddle, and that's the conundrum. And that's the riddle that EXP solved for me. If I help the company grow, and I help the company grow by helping other agents succeed at a high level, and those agents don't have to pay me from their commission. Okay. And
you're benefiting because the stock price goes up, hopefully. Is that in the back of your mind? Because not everybody is in your downline paying you.
Yeah, I never
rev
really
share.
looked at the stock. I've never been a stock guy. I probably should have paid more attention to that, but that's just a little bit of cream on top of it. I never got stock at Keller Williams. And so so the stock is there in the back of my head, but it doesn't factor into any of my decisions, to be honest with you.
Right, but if you're giving away your coaching and these people are not in your downline, in your mind, where is the value? To them, I understand it. Free coaching.
It doesn't matter, because the whole point is, for me, it's like, if my needs are taken care of and I'm able to so I have Knolly Coaching, okay, knollycoaching.com. I used to charge $300 a month to be in my coaching club. Now, how much is it? Free, my favorite 4-letter word. You could be at Remax, Keller Williams, I don't care where you are. You can join my coaching. You can drink from the fountain. You can get all the knowledge you want.
And that's brokers from anybody, company.
Anybody.
Or people even not licensed, anybody in the world.
Anybody. It doesn't matter. And so I just like doing that, and so now that's not for everybody. I'm just saying, for me personally, I like to not have to charge for stuff. And so now I do understand that when people don't pay, they don't pay attention. I get that. I understand that. But I'm one of those, Jim, that I read a book a week. I've been that way since I was very young. I've loved to read. I go to seminars. I go to events. I listen to podcasts. Mostly I like reading books. That's what I like to do. And so I like learning. I'm a lifelong learner. Okay. And most of the training that I've gotten has been free. Okay. But I put it to use. Now, there's a lot of people that you give free stuff to, they don't do anything with it. That's their problem, not mine. Okay. But I just like the idea of not having to charge. I mean, that's just, I don't know. Just something I like about it. And so it's what I do. So little by little, there's a few things that I charge for, like my one-on-one time. Okay. One-on-one coaching. Yeah, you're going to pay. It's a pretty penny. It's not cheap at all. But other than that, if I do stuff all the time, I'll do classes, webinars, trainings. I just did a 2-hour training where I gave away my best tips on how to get expired. I used to charge classes like that, $500. I mean, it's worth $500 for that class. I just did it for free, put it out on YouTube.
Right. Well, I do a magazine. It's all just EXP luxury. Because no one was doing it, and I'm not charging people for it. So I guess we have the same mindset.
Yeah.
It's like paying it forward, giving back. Something good should
It's
happen,
reciprocity. Yeah, for sure.
and it's
Absolutely.
a good way to network.
Yeah.
And this is a people business.
Yeah.
So what better way to attract more people into your sphere than not putting up, I guess, paywalls, let's call it.
Yeah, paywalls. Now, there are some things, obviously, I mean, you got to be a smart business person, right? So there's some things you're going to do to say, hey, wait a minute, if you join my organization, you're going to get this and that. You're not going to get that one for free. So yeah, of course there's that. But so for EXP, just to finalize on the answer for EXP, it's just giving me the ability to do things without worrying about where my compensation is going to come from. So I basically look at EXP as my sponsor. Think about it this way, Jim. If somebody was to come to you and say, hey, I'm going to pay you $20,000 a month, or I'll pay you $5,000 a week, or I'll pay you $30,000 a month, whatever that number is. I'm going to pay you every single month. And all I want you to do is just provide information to people, put out a daily YouTube, give information for free, give them. Well, sure, I could do that. You're going to pay me $20,000 a month. How much? Okay, no problem. I'll do that. Nope. So I look at EXP as basically my sponsor. So I'm getting paid every single month from the company. And now I can go play in the playground, doing the stuff I like to do without worrying about where my paycheck's coming from. I don't have to worry about it. And so that's just the way I look at it. It's my perspective on it. There's no other model that I've seen in the game that's been able to do that for me in any industry.
It's a tech platform. It's a business model. It certainly is different. My first book was about franchises and the structure of brands in the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm talking about myself as we wrap up the show, but and that took me 6 months to write, 6 months to put it aside, and like a year to edit with like 5 different editors. The second book was about EXP, your $1 million month in real estate. It just poured out of me. It was like after being with EXP for, I don't know, a month or so, I just realized that I had to write a book about it because people want to know everything in 5 minutes. Just give me the Reader's Digest version of everything I need to know about EXP. I don't have a lot of time, and there's no way to do it. So, that book kind of wrote itself. That all being said,
I love it.
We could talk all day. So what does it cost to have you as a one-on-one coach? What do you charge for that?
So my one-on-one coaching is $2,500 a month for one-on-one coaching. And it's not really accountability coaching. So what I tell people is if you're hiring me because you want to go from 100,000 to 250, or maybe you want to go from 250 to 500. Most of my coaching clients are already successful. They're making 6 figures. I've got, for example, one that's making 500,000 a year. The other one's making 300, but they want to get to 1.2, or, they want to quadruple their income. So that's when you come in, you say, hey, I'm going to bring Knolly Williams in for 4 months or 6 months. And, and you pay me 15 grand to get you from 300,000 to 600,000. It's more that kind of coaching. If you need accountability coaching, which I think everyone should have, and I'll tell you, I started with accountability coaching when I was 8 months in the business, and it was about $1,000 a month, just for somebody to hold me accountable every week. Did I make the call? Did I do what I said I was going to do? I highly recommend, that everyone is involved in that, in accountability coaching. It's not what I do. Okay. Mine's not accountability coaching. Mine is more of consulting and coaching to get to quadruple your business
And,
and
and
get
you're
you.
and you're not coaching new agents.
No, no,
This
no, no.
is
It's hot. I mean, unless you have a trust fund set aside somewhere and you're trying to get, it's really not, it's for agents that are already, I mean, in my opinion, you're already making 100 grand, but you've been stuck. Like I have one guy that he's been stuck at 300,000 for 5 years. Okay. Now, a lot of people would love to be stuck there. 25,000 a month. Oh, that's not bad. But he knows he should be making 100,000 a month. So I'm getting him there, and
so. Well, let's finish with this question. Do you think that EXP is a company more for the icon level agent, that super top producing agent, or is it for any agent?
I would go more with, if it's between those two, I'm going to go with any agent. Because I mean, obviously icon there's so many benefits to being here. Like you got to be here if you're icon. Like there's no reason you wouldn't be, because it doesn't cost you anything to be here, if you, in the grand scheme of it. But even if you're, when you talk about the collaboration, brand new agents, you can be here and do well, but you have to create a different mindset if you've never been anywhere else. Because you've got to remember, Jim, they don't have any frame of reference. If you've been an agent for 1 or 2 years and you're already doing 2, 3, 4 deals a year, maybe 5, but you want to take it to 20 plus, this is the place for you, because we have so much training and collaboration and you're going to have within your upline, people that are in your organization that you join that are doing those numbers, and we'll give you our playbook for free. That's what we do here. We give our playbook for free of how we sell a lot of houses. And so, Jim, even though
yeah, I was just going to say, as an inventory has shrunk in this market, you still think the opportunity exists for those agents to scale up their business?
Yeah, I just did a training on this. If you focus on listings, the opportunity's there. In a bad market, in a good market, a listing agent is going to make a crap ton of money. In a bad market, they're going to make double or triple that. Because what happens is when you are focused on listings, you're the king of your market or the queen of your market. You have to focus on listings. I can't stress that enough. And too many agents don't get that memo. But if you're focused on listings, you're going to not only last, but you're going to be very successful in any market.
Okay, well, let's end on that note. Knolly Williams, you are an influencer. You've done it all, and really appreciate you coming on the show. If any of our viewers want to get in touch with you, Knolly, where do they go?
The easiest place to reach me is knolly.com, KNOLLY.com. That's where everything Knolly lives, knolly.com. And so check me out there. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, check out all the freebies, the free goodies that I have over there. And then I highly recommend you get my new book, 3 Hours a Day. That's 3hoursaday.com. Thank you so much, Jim. I love what you're doing, buddy. Getting the education out there about the luxury market is so critical. I recently heard Pete Middleton speak on it, and it's just, our luxury division is par excellence. I mean, if you guys haven't checked out the luxury division, you should be reaching out to Jim today, because it is amazing. I'm blown away by it. It's incredible. Thank you so much,
Knolly. Thank you. This is Jim Lowenstern signing off. The Exponential Files. Subscribe today. Thank you.